All right, welcome everyone to the Agile Project Management Workshop today. Great to have you all. I'm excited to run this again and digging into this. Why the workshop? Well, I think a lot of managers, coordinators, everybody, engineers as well, can feel a lot like the people in this picture. A lot of chaos. We got a lot of tools and dashboards, reports, inputs from clients, from sales, there's technicians, there are tickets coming in, there's emails, there's alerts, a lot of chaos. So even though we got the best dashboards and tools, still feel overwhelmed and burnt out. And a lot of us can feel like an accidental project manager where we kind of got voluntold into it, but don't have the skills, the tools, the process for it. So hence this is mindset, some tactical training, strategies, mindset, and methods for this. So our first speaker is Melvyn in the UK. So the late one for him, I believe 11 a.m. there or 11 p.m. there. And he's been gracious to join us on this. So he's a very seasoned enterprise agile expert. He's been doing this for many years, coaching enterprise teams, small and large, a lot of large companies, and working with groups, individuals on these key concepts and how implementing this. So coaching all day, training sessions, all of that. So he's working with executives, managers, directors as they're growing into these new roles. And he's worked with some large companies like Sony, IBM, and Oxford University Press. So Melvyn, it's great to have you back. And thanks for being with us again.
Okay.
Hey, Melvyn, you're still on mute.
There we go. Yeah, sorry for that. So I'm going to cover a few things, and I know that a lot of questions are going to come your way, but I hope that I can at least plant the seeds for all of you and help you on the long run. So I started with waterfall and incremental delivery picture, mainly because these two live together today in all companies, right? So there are many companies that are trying to implement incremental delivery or agile, but at the same time they have waterfall projects. And I always have the same questions, right? So can they live together? Can we mix them? Is there a way where we can get a benefit from using agile ways of working into waterfall? Question is, the answer, sorry, is that yes, you can benefit from lean agile ways of working, even if you're running a waterfall project. Why? Because you have a project plan in any tool that you may use, but then what happened after that? How do I deliver this project? How do I get the status of the task? How do I pass work into the different teams? And that's where lean agile ways of working will help you with tools like top left, with some ceremonies like daily stand-ups, retrospectives, and changing that mindset. Okay, and that's what I'm going to try to cover in these 50 minutes. It's not a lot of time, but I hope it give you a bit of an overview. Okay, so think about it, right? So in a waterfall environment, as a project manager, you will need to spoon feed people with tasks and pass work into the different people, and then you hope that they will get the work done for you. Hopefully, you have an hour a week update where they can tell you progress. If something gets blocked, you probably won't know until that meeting. If they miss a meeting or you miss it, you won't be able to know until maybe 2 weeks time, right? And then by the time you find that something get blocked or it's not, or people are not working on your task, you already lose a week or two, right? So the idea of using lean agile ways of working is, what if you can adjust your plans every couple of weeks with real-time data where you know the deviation? What if instead of you chasing people, what if they update you on the plans because they are using a Kanban board, and whatever they do on the task, you can see that progress. So you don't need to be chasing them around. They will pass that information to you, right? So what if you can see when things get blocked straight away because there is an on hold column or a way to visualize immediately, okay, that's on hold. Okay, let me find out what that blocked, right? So it's all about focusing on flow so that we can deliver faster, right? value, because we're trying to focus on delivering value to the customer. What are the most important things we need to deliver? And then we will do an exercise later today where you will see how we can improve quality by limiting work in progress, focusing on less things so that you can go faster, right? I know the feeling, because usually we tend to work on too many things at the same time. We try to content switch, and the more you content switch, the slower you go, the less quality you have, and the most chaos that you can get into, okay? So is all this doable? For sure, right? So you can use all these lean agile ways of working to deliver your waterfall projects, right? So we're going to talk about what is lean agile. We're going to talk about the different frameworks. There are frameworks like Kanban or Scrum, how they can benefit you. And one of the most important things is what we call lean agile planning, right? So in Waterfall, usually you plan at the very beginning. You have that project plan that I was sharing with all of you, and you hope that you can deliver. And then you try to play with the dates to see if you can, oh, can I deliver this here or there? That's a bit of a tricky one, because it's only you fighting with that project plan. But in Agile, it's the other way around. As I was saying, plans come from the team, from the people doing the work, right? And they don't plan at the very beginning. They are constantly planning. In Agile, we are constantly planning. We plan every day, right? Because teams have what we call a daily stand-up, where they are planning what they are going to be doing today. And if they have a problem, you can see it straight away. We have iteration planning. Most of companies these days are planning every 2 weeks. You can plan every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, up to a month. I have many companies, many customers I'm working, they are doing quarterly planning. As a matter of fact, I finished one, when it was yesterday, 150 people between operations, infrastructure, data center people, networks, name it, right? And we plan the next quarter. There is a lot of technical debt, there is a lot of automation that need to happen, and that is helping them, right? So we go from quarterly planning then into every 2 weeks planning, and they have daily stand-up to run. They are running waterfall projects. Some of them are running Agile. That's okay, but we are all aligned, right? You have roadmaps, you have solution roadmaps, and that give you far more visibility and control than, in my experience, I used to be a project manager before when I work in Waterfall, okay? I'm tempted to ask if you have any questions. Happy to answer quickly, but any questions so far? I mean, do you have this level of planning? Think about it. Happy to answer later today. But if you don't have this level of planning, then probably you want to start thinking, how can we implement this? How can we, with the image that we have, whatever, it was like quite messed up. How can you control of that? And there are ways to control of that. And part of that is starting to plan, but not you, your teams, the people doing the work, right, helping you, and you facilitate as a project manager or as a team manager. You can facilitate those things, right? You can help your teams and your enterprise or your company to move in the right direction. Okay, everybody's changing in the market worldwide, right? So it's just a matter of starting somewhere, and then slowly you start getting into it. I know the mindset is a challenge for sure. That's it. All this is quite simple. I mean, you see all these things and you're like, oh yeah, we can do that. But then, as someone was asking on the chat, how do I deal with my team mindset? How do I help? Well, you need to start little by little, right? So we will check Scrum and Kanban later. And little by little, you start practicing these things, learning about them a bit more, getting help, getting support, because sometimes it's not easy, and as soon as you hesitate, then you will stop doing it, right? So you need to remember that, okay, there is a reason why I'm doing this, and I'm going to stay focused, and even people don't like it, slowly they will move away. And my experience is, yes, people say, no, I don't like it, I hate this, why we are doing this, blah, blah, blah. And then they realize like, oh, this makes sense. It's making my life easier, right? So they are not content switching on 1,000 things. They can focus. They can have the feeling that they are delivering things. So that's kind of the idea behind all these things, okay? So definitely we need to have that mindset, right? And transform our workplace culture, right? So, but that's one of the challenges. we need support from the leadership team, right? So if the leadership team doesn't buy into all of this, then it's going to be hard to transform the enterprise, right? I have that all the time. As a matter of fact, I'm working with a director and he has around 8 teams. So I approach all the different teams because I was told they are having issues. So I'm helping all the team managers. And the feedback I'm getting is there is no way we can change because whatever we change, our director will not be happy. So we're not going to try anything because we tried in the past and we have been told off, right? So as you can see, if at that level of direction they are not buying into it, then it's going to be hard to change because command and control doesn't help with all these things. Okay, so we need to move away from that, right? So to get that lean agile mindset, there are 4 things that we need to focus. You need to have some agile frameworks. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about team building because it's important to build your team, practices, process and standards, and then you need to visualize your flow, right, on a Kanban board, and that's why top left will make your life easy, right? Because you will be able to control your projects in a way that, as I was saying, rather than chasing people around, you can see when things are straight away, right? And that will help you to understand what is in progress, what is blocked, what has been done, and if you are using some of the things that I was talking about, like iterations, then you are able to immediately see the deviation, right? And then you can take control straight away. Okay? That's kind of the idea. So, lean agile mindset. So let's go back to a few definitions because it's important that we try to go back to basics, right? So what does it mean agile? Because we talk about it and it's all about being able to respond quickly to what the market is asking, right? So we all have changing priorities and we need to be able to deliver faster, right? So that's kind of the idea, right? So how do we respond? How are we able to move quickly? Lean, simple answer to being lean is how can we do more with less? How can your teams do more with the same amount of resources, right? So improving flow is the first step. If you're able to visualize your team workload and you're able to control flow, and we will do an exercise later, you will be able to do more with the same amount of resources or even with less, right? Can you duplicate what you can do? Yeah, for sure, but you need to control that flow, right? For that, you need a mindset change. All this is simple. The problem is the mindset. And that's, I face that in all the companies. Don't feel that that's, oh, my company, no, all companies have the same because this is a human thing. You have been, we have been grown up in that way, right? So we go to school, teachers tell us what to do, then you start working, everybody tell you what to do, and you are a doer. The problem here is that we are moving away from doers into thinkers. So now we think on how we can do things better, how we can improve. Oh, wait a second. I'm not supposed to be doing that, right? I'm supposed to do what I have been told. And that's completely opposite in an agile mindset. An agile mindset is all about how we can improve, how as a team we can do better, how do we can change the way we work, right? And that's what we need. But for that, to that level, we need the leadership team to support us behind. Okay, so that's kind of the idea there. Does this sound like lean agile leadership? Is that where you feel at the moment? That's definitely not, right? So we don't want to go through this, right? So ideally, we should be able to empower our teams. We should be able to lead by example, right? So we need to coach, right? So coach means instead of you telling people the solution and solutionizing for them, you ask questions so that people can find the answers, right? So that's why it's so important, right? So we are not going to be command and controlling people anymore. We are more focused on how do I allow my people to think and find the solution? I can tell you where I want to go. How do we get there? That's your call as a team, right? And that's key for management because from a leadership perspective, if we are not able to master this, it's going to be hard, right? Because people will always be waiting for you to tell them what to do. And if you need to tell what to do to 100 people, you will not have time, right? So ideally, you want to tell them where you want to go. And I'm saying 100 could be 200, could be 50 or 10 or whatever, right? But once you tell them where to go, and if they trust you, they will tell you how to get there, right? So that's what you want. You want to use that brain power from everybody rather than you manipulating everybody like Muppets, right? Because that doesn't take you anywhere, okay? So lead by example is key, right? So develop your people. We need to lead the change. And something that is super important, we need to have that psychological safety, right? So if we are going to change, we're going to make mistakes. Things are not going to work straight away. That's okay. Allow them to fail fast, fail small rather than failing big, and change the way they work and the way they think, right? So you need to be patient. Things don't change straight away, right? So my experience with this type of change, 6 to 9 months until people change their mindset after practicing like daily stand-ups and all these different ceremonies that are around using tools like top left with Kanban. At the beginning, people will be like, oh, why you're asking me to move a task on a Kanban board? And so you will need to be patient until they understand that it's for their own benefit. And that's when change happens, right? But that takes some time, depending on people, right? Some people take it faster, some people take longer, okay? Sorry for that, let me get this out of the way. But that's kind of the idea here, right? So from a lean agile leadership, if we don't lead by example, it's not going to be that easy, right? So from that image where we have that man shouting, can you find the leaders here? Right, and definitely this man is a consultant. That's not a team manager, right? He was just standing there trying to be outside of what the team is planning, right? So this is a quarterly planning, or what some companies call big room planning or program increment planning. The leaders are in there, right? The team leaders, team managers, directors, but they are collaborating, they are working. Everybody is working together, right? Is trying to figure out how to plan what they need to deliver for the next quarter, right? And that's what you want. That's the kind of atmosphere that you want to have, right? So once we plan it and business owners are there, all the people we need to plan, we make the business part of the problem and the solution, right? Or the customers part of the problem and solution, and we work with them to deliver that. And that's changed the dynamics of everything, right? So that's helped with building trust, building transparency, visibility, and making sure you deliver the right solution for your customers, okay? So that's kind of the idea behind that. This is a key one, right? So the culture is key, right? So, but for that, you need to have all these aspects in your company, right? So we need to be able to have that motivation. We need to have courage to change because most of the time we fear change, right? And if we fear change, then you know what, it's not going to happen because as soon as there is some pressure from the business or someone says, I don't like this, we will stop, right? So we need to have the courage to say, you know what, if this worked for other companies, and you can Google it, you will find that many companies are transforming, most of the markets are transforming, then it works for your company as well, right? So all what we are talking about here doesn't matter what you do in terms of, it could be software, it could be infrastructure, it could be that you are building cars, airplanes, could be anything. All this is about, all these things we are talking about is about helping people to work together, helping teams and team of teams to learn how to work together and interact together. That's the biggest challenge that we have these days, right? But you can achieve all these things, right? So you can build that trust, have happier people, have motivated people, respect each other. So it's quite important, right? And for sure, innovation. Okay. We talk about team building, but you need to be careful, right? If you don't build your team, then you don't have a team. You have a working group, right? So working group is just people independently working. They don't have any accountability, right? So they just have individual accountability, but as a group, they don't, right? A team is a completely different thing. In a team, we work together, we care for each other, we pair, we make sure that whatever we plan, we deliver it. And if we have problems, we resolve them. Right? So what we want is to build a team. The thing is that teams have 5 dysfunctions, right? So there's an interesting book about from Patrick Lencioni. If you don't have trust in your team, then you're going to have fear of conflict, right? That's going to come with lack of commitment. You're going to have lack of accountability, and then nobody cares about the results, right? So you need to build your team to achieve all these things, right? So you build trust, then people will not fear conflict, right? So when we don't fear conflict, we can commit, we can start working together as a team, we are accountable, and we focus on results, and we are proud of what we do, right? The key problem here is that all teams go through forming, storming, norming, performing, right? So going through these phases until you norm and perform, that's what I was saying, takes 6 to 9 months. Could be 3 to 6 months, depending on the people. I have seen teams taking 9 to 12 months. And when they were storming, you don't even want to be close there, right? But that's important. We don't want to constantly be changing teams, right? So we don't want to create a team for a project and then another, and then disband it and create another team, because the more you do that, the more you stay between forming and storming. So you don't get any benefit from norming and performing. So you want to stay with the stable teams as long as you can, so that once you get them into norming or performing, they stay there. Yes, you get someone new on the team, or the team decide to change the way of working, they may go back to storming, but coming out from storming, once you have been norming and performing, doesn't take long. Maybe a couple of days. Yeah, we have a bit of a storm, but then we realize that, you know what, that's silly, and we move on. When you are a new team and you are starting to form, and then you start to feel like, okay, now I'm starting to show my personality with the rest of the people, that's when we can have a really tough time with storming. When the team is storming, performance is quite bad, right? So we need to help as team leaders to facilitate that process so that people can move. Sometimes I just showing a picture like this, just you will see, I do it all the time, right? And the people are like, oh, we are storming. Oh, silly ass. Okay, what do we need to do to move from here? And that's when they make the click. Okay, you know what? That's okay. Let's discuss how we can live together in this team, right? And then they move from there. Right? But that's important. If you don't build your team, performance is not going to be there, and you have all these challenges that we were talking about. Okay? I know there is a lot of content going on there, but these are key things that we want to take away. And we'll make sure you can get these slides and you can work on these things, right? So how do you help your team? We'll talk about team ceremonies and things that will help you to go through these cycles that help you to get better as a team, right? We'll talk about them in a minute. But that's kind of the idea. So Agile frameworks. There are different types of Agile frameworks, but these frameworks, as I was saying, they are there to help people to work together. Business, delivery, and operations, right? So we collaborate. We resolve problems together. We plan them together. We achieve success together, okay? So there are principles, practices, there are roles and responsibilities. One of the key things here is why I'm saying roles and responsibilities is because when you go to all these frameworks, if you go to Scrum or Kanban or less, or there are many, you will see the names. If you're a project manager or you're a team leader or a team manager, you might not find that job title on the frameworks, but you will find a role. So I always ask, right? So if you are prioritizing work for a team, well, that's the role of a product owner. If you're removing blockers and you're helping facilitating your team ceremonies and trying to make sure that the team is able to deliver, well, that's a job of a Scrum Master. So you're playing that role, right? So because you don't see the same job title in the framework, that doesn't mean that you're not doing some of those things, right? So roles and responsibilities is important, and we can define it so we can understand how to move and help our teams, okay? There are ceremonies happening at the different levels. At the team level, at the team of teams, if you have many teams working together, and they help right? To practice all this agile, plus learn to change that mindset, right? Why? Because you know what? I tell you my experience. First stand-up, painful. If you have never done a daily stand-up, the first one, painful. If you don't have practice and experience, it may take you half an hour to an hour, right? And you will need to deal with a lot of why we are doing this, right? Second day, they moan a little less. After a week or two, they will not be moaning anymore, right? So you move from why we are doing this to, oh, okay, this is good. We are able to start to communicate as a team. So you don't need to give up. You need to keep going, right? So, and that's it. That's the beauty of it. Because these things come again and again and again, and you repeat them, you get better again. So imagine I do quarterly planning, right? So, and I do quarterly planning with sometimes 250, 300 people in one, well, we do it online these days, but for 2 days or 3 days, you can imagine that you need to deal with all those people while we're here. You know what happened? The first 2 days, painful. Everybody's complaining about it. I need to be like, covering my ears. What happened when we do it on the next quarter? Oh, this is amazing. We like it, but we need to make it better. Okay? I move from where we're here to, hey, you know what? We appreciate this because it helped us to plan the quarter and it did help us to stay focused. Cool, right? But that's what you want, right? So the Agile framework will give you that fail fast, feedback loops, practice, and get better. And that will slowly change the mindset. When you realize, you will be like, oh, this is a different thing. Okay. There are different types of Agile frameworks. You have Agile frameworks for teams, and you have Agile frameworks for the enterprise. For the teams, the basic one is Kanban, right? That means that Kanban doesn't have any roles, any ceremonies. Scrum is a bit more elaborated, where you have some roles and some ceremonies. There is extreme programming, and then there is a combination of the other ones. So maybe you have heard about the Scrumban. My advice usually is you need to pick and choose what works for you. Experiment, learn. Is Kanban better or is Scrum? Should we iterate? Well, give it a go. Iterate for 2 weeks, see how it goes. Try to follow the ceremonies. Try to understand why you're failing. There is a lot online today that you can read, and it will help you to get there, right? And you can get training as well, right? There are frameworks for enterprises. Scale Agile framework. We're not talking about a team. We are talking about the enterprise now. How do we reorganize our teams? How do we change even portfolio management? How do we deal with money? So those are the type of frameworks for the enterprise. Right? So you have SAFe or Scale Agile framework, LESS, Nexus, DAD, and many others. Okay, but I like this slide because it helps people to understand what is what. Right? Scale Agile framework use Kanban and Scrum, the same as LESS or the other ones, because in an enterprise you have teams. So teams are running Kanban and Scrum, or Kanban or Scrum, sorry, while the company is probably running SAFe or LESS or Nexus, whatever is the framework they decide to do. Or they just pick and choose a few things from one framework and from the other, and they create their own framework, okay? The best way to learn is to experiment. You don't need to follow things to the letter. Just try things, see how it works. You know what? I want my teams to start doing a bit of Agile, but I'm not sure. Well, start with a daily stand-up. Have a Kanban board and have a daily stand-up and allow the team to tell you what they have been doing yesterday, what are they going to do today, and if they have any blockers, anything you can help them with. Simple as that. Keep it short, keep it in 10 to 15 minutes max, and see how it goes. You know what? We realize we need to plan a bit more because we are talking a lot on the stand-up. Maybe we need to get together maybe an hour a week to refine our requirements because they are not clear. Okay, let's do it and see how it works. Okay? But that's kind of the idea of these frameworks. They help you to slowly start making improvements. Okay. This is Scrum. As you can see, in Scrum we have 3 roles. We have a product owner who helps to prioritize what the customers need. We have a Scrum Master who helps the team to learn how to get better with Scrum. They are facilitators. They are coaches. They coach the teams to go through with team building. They coach the team to learn how to do a proper daily stand-up or a planning. or all these different ceremonies, right? And you have the team, right? So in Scrum, we have an iteration, which could be from a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, up to a month. Most of the market these days goes with 2 weeks. If you ask me, the main reason for that is that when you go for a month or 3 weeks, people take it like, oh, we have plenty of time. And then they are going crazy on the last 2 weeks because they took it too easy early. So 1 week is too fast. So you are planning on Monday, finish on Friday, planning again. So it's like too much of a stress. 2 weeks is kind of nice. Also because if the business changes their mind in terms of priorities, waiting for another week. You start a sprint, you're halfway, so they only need to wait for a week or a few days until you start again. So you plan your priorities again, right? So that's kind of a Scrum. You have the ceremonies, you start with a planning, that's an hour or two for the 2 weeks, where you plan, this is our team capacity, this is how much work we have, that's it. Let's make sure that as a team, we are all happy that we can commit to deliver that. A daily stand-up, 15 minutes. Some teams do backlog refinement an hour a week. At the end of a sprint, we do a sprint review where we show or demo what we have done. During those 2 weeks, we get feedback. Then we get together as a team and we do a retrospective. What went well, what we can do better next time, right? We take some action points and we go again, sprint planning, and that's a repetitive cycle. So you go through that. Some teams who are running operations or they are running probably, you know what, we have, I don't know, 30%, 40, 50% of BAU, maybe Scrum will not work that well, right? Because Scrum means that for 2 weeks, we are going to try to stay focused on our priorities. So if you are doing operation, for example, then it's difficult to say, well, we will not be able to change our plan for 2 weeks because there is a lot of BAU, right? So they may benefit more with something like Kanban, where we just visualize our workflow, we limit work in progress, we plan ad hoc. There is a big project, we break it down into tasks and we load our Kanban board and we flow, right? Some teams doing Kanban take some ceremonies from Scrum. They do daily stand-ups, they may do a retrospective once a month, they don't demo, or they may demo ad hoc. So as you can see, what I'm doing now is picking from Scrum and making it work for Kanban, right? That's okay. Nothing stops you from doing that. But what is that going to give you is building your team, okay? I know you have a lot of questions, I'm sure. I hope I'm covering some of those. And for sure, we can have a nice chat after this. But that's the idea, right? Those are the Agile frameworks, right? So simple, as I said, you don't need to start with full Scrum. You can start with, you know what? We have a project, we already have the task. Let's load our Kanban board and start with a daily standard. And then as you find that you may need something more, you can start, you know what if we do a retrospective even once a month and try to see how we can get better at things? That's okay. Should we demo things and get feedback so that we don't wait for 6 months or a year to find if that's what we are doing is a good thing or not? Give it a go and see how it plays. Okay, don't feel bad about making mistakes. That's okay. You are going to learn from your mistakes. Okay, and you are going to get better at it. That's the idea. In terms of processes and standards, we need to understand our company processes. If they are not working, right? If they need to improve them, do we have delays? So we need to eliminate waste, right? So because most of the time what we see I see as a coach is that this is how it works in this company. Yeah, but that's not working quite well, right? But we don't feel empowered to change. So I would say the same. Try to understand where are the delays, where are the problems, and try to improve. No one is going to change it because they will expect you to change it. But everybody is waiting for someone to come around and change it, right? So if you see that something is not working, try to improve it. Get together with other people at your level and see how you can change and make it better. You know what? We don't have a proper way of working. Nobody has. I mean, that's common, right? So until people realize that we should have a proper way of working, right? And you know what? Yes, teams have flexibility. Some teams can do Kanban, some teams can do Scrum, but let's try to use the same tool. We have a Kanban board. Okay, so can we improve the way we probably release to production, or how we run our projects? Get together and try to understand what is working, what's not, and how you can get better at it. Okay, that's kind of the idea behind that. You may want to have a definition of done as well, right? Because doing the work is not enough. So you need to test your work, you need to document it, get someone to review it. So definitions of done are important, because without them, you create technical debt. Oh, we delivered a project, but we forgot to document it, we haven't tested properly. There is a lot of technical debt there, right? So ideally, we want to keep an eye on these things. Okay, so that's the idea. So if you're working with software teams, right, can we automate things? As you can see, the team increment, right? So there is a, if you're using stories to the certified acceptance criteria and so on, right? So there is a lot in there to cover. Okay. And then visualize workflow, right? So we want to visualize our work, mainly because if not, you won't be able to control, right? So think about it, right? So here you can count how many cups of tea or coffee that this lady is preparing, right? In this one, you can more or less guess how many handbags this man is working on, right? But what happened here? How do you know what's going on? It's almost impossible. There are project plans, specs, emails, Excel lists, shoulder tabs. If you're using Team, whatever, or Slack, or whatever tool you're using, there is too much, right? So what we want is to visualize it. That's why you use Kanban boards. To visualize your workflows, to visualize work in progress, to limit work in progress, so you don't work on too many things at the same time, and to move from there, right? So you have top left. I'm sure that later today you will see more about it, but that will help you to visualize what's going on for your projects, right? And take action, right? Make sure that, you know what, that's not moving at this time, that should have been finished already and it's not there. So it gives you a different perspective of your projects, right? And you control flow, right? Which we are going to do an exercise about flow now. So let's do this exercise all together. I need you to write down 6 names. You can use, you can copy my names, as you can see over there, from Maria all the way down to Tony. You can use a pen and a paper. You can use your notepad. Any place where you can write 6 names. I give you a few seconds. You will not. You will all need to do the exercise, right? Because it's independent, but you will need to participate on it. Do we have 6 names?
I've got 6 names.
So I'm going to show you, I don't want you to do anything yet. Have the 6 names, that's it. I'm going to show you how we are going to do this exercise. And then we are going to time it, and we are going to do it all together. So please don't start doing anything until I tell you, okay? Because we are going to time it and we are going to play together. So what we're going to be doing is what we usually do at work. We work on too many things at the same time. And what I want to show you is that when you do that, your quality drops, you go slower, right? And you get in trouble, okay? So please don't start doing anything yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the names, but first we're going to write the first letter for each name. Then we're going to write the second letter for each name. Then the third letter, and so on until you finish writing all the names, okay? So we go again, first all the first letters, then on the second letters, and so on, okay? So what we're going to do is, I'm going to open there you go. We're going to time it, right? So what I need you to do is, once we click on start, you rewrite the names in this way. And when you finish, you need to say done, right? So why? Because we're going to count from the first done until the last person that said done. And then we're going to have a chat and see what happened. Okay, so are we clear on the exercise?
Yep.
Yeah, it's clear.
Yep.
So let's go. Remember to say done when you finish writing the names in this way, please.
Done.
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 Haven't finished, you can finish right now. Don't worry. So let me ask, did anybody make any mistakes? Which is okay if you did. It's no problem.
Many.
Yes.
Many, right? So it's normal, right? So you can write those names with your eyes closed and you will not make any mistakes. But now what happened? What happened in your brain? Think about it. You start working and you need to stop. And then you need to start again, but then you need to stop. So every time you start and stop, you need to refocus. I mean, this is just a simple exercise. But imagine what happened with more complex things. So remember, we're talking about, are we able to do more with the same amount of people, even with less? Yes, if we're able to control that flow. Okay. Any questions there? Any thoughts? So let me ask, how long do you think it will take if you write the names as you did it the first time? That means you write the whole entire first name, then you write the whole entire second name until you finish writing the whole entire sixth name. How long do you think it will take?
A fraction of the time.
Yeah.
Do it.
10th of the time.
10%, yeah.
Yeah.
10% only? Okay, let's do it. The first down was around 30 seconds and we went all the way up to a minute. So let's do it. Let's write the names as we did the first time. We just write the whole entire first name and so on. Okay, remember to say done when you finish writing the name.
Done.
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 Same amount of letters, nothing changed there, right? So same amount of effort, right? But we are able to focus, stay focused, right? So that's why, as well, if we have a person or a team member working on too many projects at the same time, the only thing that happens is that that person is content switching. So rather than delivering fast, they're going slow, right? So that's why you want to have a stable team. So I would say the same, don't assign people to projects, get work into teams, get projects into teams. We prioritize it, we'll get one thing at a time, maybe a couple, but not 10 or 20, maybe one or two maximum. I ideally stay with one, finish that one or get blocked, and then you can get another one. And you can flow. But you cannot control that in a project plan. You can control it in a Kanban board because a Kanban board will help you to visualize those things. Thoughts here?
I have a question. How this is slightly unrelated, but like when we're talking about limiting work in progress in Kanban specifically, like is there a best practice to limiting work in progress, or is that it's just like a general feeling of you just don't want to have too much going on?
The Kanban board will help you to visualize that, right? Why? Because you will see, right? So let's use this one as an example, right? So let's say we have, how many people we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people, right? Ideally, as a team, we should be working together, right? So here you have how many tasks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in progress, for the amount of people you have, what do you think? We have you think that's okay? The amount of tasks that we have there? Or is too much? Or we need to have double that? What will be the gut feeling based on the exercise we just done?
I personally think that it's probably too much in progress all at once, too much to track.
Right? There's too much. Why? Because my advice usually is, okay, you know what, it's a new team. I know they don't want to work together and so on. Then limit it to one ticket per person. Ideally, less than that, one ticket for two people, but okay. Start easy, right? So let's visualize flow. Okay, you're working on too many things. Get one, finish it, then move to the next one. Oh, but that ticket is 20 days. Okay, you know what? If a ticket is 20 days and that's the highest priority, my advice usually is break that ticket, 20 days, into 20 tickets of 1 day each and get a team to work together. Because 20 days effort is not the same as 20 days lead time. Right, so for one person, 20 days lead time, and if they are context switching, the for 20 days effort, the lead time probably will be 30 or 40 days or 60 days because they are working into many other things. But 20 days effort for a team, lead time could be maybe half, 10 days. So that's more effective than taking so long to deliver 20 days effort, right? So you have a team, many people working together. Not all can be done in parallel, I agree, but there are many things that can be done in parallel, and as a team, you're going to deliver that faster. If that's the highest priority, then I'd rather use my resources in the best way, which is making sure that we break things down into smaller chunks, and then we can feed the team and get things out faster. Okay? Answer the question. But you need to experiment with those things. Yes, people don't like it, and that's when you start building the team. Oh, I want to work on my ticket. Okay, you know what? At the very beginning, I'm not going to push it. Let's visualize flow. Let's visualize things. Okay, let's control. Okay, but now you're working on two tickets free, work on one. Oh, okay, put the others on hold. You finish this, then you can get the others. Baby steps. Okay. Any thoughts? You can control that, right? So think about this. In a command and control environment where people is used to get orders and receive orders, you can use that in your benefit. Until then, they can move into thinkers, right? At the very beginning, you push it and then you release it so that they can learn how to do that properly. Okay. Measure and optimize. You have metrics where you can visualize all the things. They help you to improve your team. You can remove bottlenecks, but don't use metrics to punish your team, right? That's not what we want. Okay, so you have cumulative flow where you can measure how your team is doing. If you have bottlenecks, like for example here, where it looked like things are this queue is growing. Let's say the design is growing too much, or maybe the test right is growing too much. Ideally, it should be thinner, right? And these metrics are real life data, right? So they tell you how much your teams can deliver, how long it takes, right? From to do into done, how many days it will take, right? So you can trade, or how many tickets you have in progress, right? So there are many different metrics you can get. You can get velocity, right? This is a throughput, right? So how many tickets a team can deliver every, let's say, week. But in this case, this was a customer service team, right? So they were able to process average 800 tickets a week, right? Between open and close, right? So and that's an average, right? But if you ask to the team manager, some tickets were 5 minutes, some tickets were an hour or two, some tickets were a couple of days or a week. But if you ask that team manager, hey, when I'm going to get my work done, he will be able to tell you, oh, let me check the queue. Your ticket is in position 2000. That will take a couple of weeks because we can do average 800 a week. If the ticket was in position 900, oh, early next week, right? So this is real-time data. Right? So you get that data to know and predict how long work will take, right? So then it will help you with your planning. You know what? Every week we are going to plan this amount of tickets. Oh, let's plan double that. Well, until we are able to improve our flow and our metrics show that we can go that fast, we won't be able to go. Okay. I I know there is a lot, and the idea was to plant the seeds, right? But I hope that this have helped you, and more than happy to answer questions later. Okay? Wim, I pass it back to you.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Like I see this happens, is useful for any team. Like I'm implementing some of these things in like our sales and marketing, customer success, and the exact same things are happening. So, and it's just basic, the respect for people and being patient and small steps, understanding where people are at. But it's been a load off my shoulders to look at it through this lens of letting the team own the work and break down the work and create the tickets. And when I push it, it goes slower and it's more load on me.
But if you give them direction, then they will find the way to deliver what you want, right? And it takes a lot of load from your shoulders, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So from everyone, what's one thing you might take away from this and look at differently or go try out perhaps tomorrow or next week?
I grab the importance of working on one thing at a time and to visualize what you're working on.
Yeah, definitely. Get the tools.
Starting with daily scrums.
It's important to remember that Kanban boards are for the teams and not for you to manage a team, right? So in Waterfall and Microsoft projects, it was a project manager managing all that. So use these tools to help you and have an easier life. If that makes sense.
Yep. And Steve says having multiple members work together on one thing to get it finished. That's a big one. I think it traditionally people just assume that, hey, I got my tickets and you got your tickets and we each got to work through our own, but it just sits there and stalls and takes so long. A lot of things are waiting. But that's a huge team change if you can make that. Okay, very good. Let's yeah, and Jamie says you have the backlog clear, so we know what's holding us up. Really good. And that's constant grooming as a team and also the coordinator or the manager, I guess. You got to figure out those roles and it depends on the type of work. This is a really good question from Jason does this work for small teams, medium, large? Does it work if you're just one person or 1,000 people? Like when does this ever break down or not work, Melvyn?
Yeah, so an agile team shouldn't be bigger than 9 to 11 people. I mean, you can have 20 people in a team. The problem is that people won't feel comfortable collaborating because it will be like, like now we are like 20 something and not everybody's asking. But I'm sure that if I break you into, let's say, a team of 5 or 6, it will be easy for you to talk because then you feel more comfortable. So what happens when we scale? Let's say you have a big project, then you may want to have, let's say, teams of 10 to 11, and then you may have 3, 4. As I was running this big room planning yesterday, we have 24 teams there, right? So some teams were like small, 2 or 3 people. You may have a team of 1. Okay, you can work with Kanban because it's only you, or maybe you want to do Scrum anyway. You're not going to have a daily stand-up, or maybe yes, if it is a manager helping you out, but that's a limit, right? In terms of size, because you want people to collaborate and be able to express, right? So the bigger the team, less collaboration happen, right?
Very good. And then Melvyn, do you know what the 2 large pizza rule is?
Yeah, if you can feed a team with the pizza, then that's how big the team could be, right?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Hey, that was fantastic. Thank you, Melvyn.